making headlines. The president says the secret for the continued existence of Maldivians is the Divehi language. The president discusses upcoming bills with the Speaker of Parliament. And Sri Lanka expresses commitment to strengthening bilateral relations with the Maldives for a brighter future. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to PSM News in English. I'm your host Ahmad Imad and I'll be continuing with the details for the latest stories. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz says the secret for the continued existence of Maldivians in the past, today and tomorrow is the Divehi language. The president made these remarks in a post on social media platforms to mark this year's International Mother Language Day. In his post, President Dr. Muiz said that every word that symbolizes the identity and sovereignty of the Maldivian people, such as the Maldives national flag, is associated with the Divehi language. He also noted that the secret of the continued existence as Maldivians in the past, today and tomorrow is the Divehi language. International Mother Language Day is celebrated annually on 21st February and is dedicated to the protection of linguistic and cultural diversity around the world. International Mother Language Day, first proclaimed by UNESCO and later adopted by the UN General Assembly, underscores the role of languages in promoting inclusion and achieving sustainable development goals. The 25th anniversary of International Mother Language Day celebrates a quarter century of efforts to preserve linguistic diversity and promote mother tongues. This milestone emphasizes the importance of language preservation in safeguarding cultural heritage, improving education, and fostering more peaceful societies. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz discusses upcoming bills to be submitted during the current parliamentary session with the Speaker of Parliament Abdur Rahim Abdullah and the People's National Congress PNC's parliamentary group leader Ibrahim Falah. Presidential spokesperson Hina Walid said such meetings are routinely held at the start of each parliamentary session. Delivering the presidential address at the parliament's opening for this year, President Muiz outlined several amendments to the constitution and legislative reforms, stating that they would be sent for parliamentary approval during the ongoing session. In the presidential address, the president announced plans to amend the constitution to restructure the Judicial Service Commission JSC and introduce legislation to define policies for a general referendum and for determining the number of parliamentary seats. The president also announced that the government will introduce a new land bill, real estate business bill and housing bill to address the long-standing housing issues facing the Maldives. The president further announced that he would propose important amendments to strengthen anti-corruption measures, including amendments to the Anti-Corruption Act, the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Act. The president said that an asset recovery bill is also being drafted to reclaim state assets acquired below market value. Other bills proposed this year include the Maldives International Financial Services Authority Bill, amendments to the National Language Priority Bill, a special law on the 20-year National Development Plan, and amendments to the Employment Act and the Decentralization Act. Last year, the government submitted similar constitutional and legislative reforms to support national development in various sectors, as well as to uphold the Maldives' independence and sovereignty. Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayake expresses his government's commitment to strengthening bilateral relations with neighbours Maldives for a brighter future for both nations. President Dissanayake made these remarks after meeting the Maldives Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdullah Khalil. President Dissanayake thanked Minister Dr. Khalil for his kind words about the electoral victory and the positive changes in Sri Lanka. During the meeting, Minister Dr. Khalil conveyed greetings and best wishes from President Dr. Mohammad Muiz and the people of the Maldives. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Minister Dr. Khalil highlighted the key aspects of the Maldives-Sri Lanka relations and expressed keen interest of the Maldives government to explore new avenues to collaborate further to strengthen the close bonds of friendship between the two countries. The ministry said that Minister Khalil expressed heartfelt appreciation to the government and people of Sri Lanka for the kind support and assistance rendered to the developmental efforts of the Maldives at all times on behalf of President Dr. Muiz and the people of the Maldives. Minister Dr. Khalil has ended his 4-day official visit to Sri Lanka at the invitation of H.M. Vijita Herath, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism of Sri Lanka. In addition to President Dissanayake, Minister Dr. Khalil had also met the Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya during his visit. On Wednesday, Minister Dr. Khalil and his Sri Lankan counterpart Herath held official talks, reaffirming their commitment to strengthening bilateral relations and exploring collaborations. Minister Dr. Khalil had also met with the Maldivian community in Sri Lanka and the private sector of Sri Lanka to explore opportunities to enhance collaboration in various sectors. The Maldives government insists that the Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) on technology cooperation signed between a Chinese institute will assist in its efforts for the restoration and conservation of reefs and corals in the island nation. The MOU was signed between the South China Sea Institute of Oceanology, Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Environmental Protection Agency (EPA) on 17 February. The government's comments came on the back of some media reports that the MOU had opened the door for China to gather intelligence in Maldivian waters. The Ministry of Tourism and Environment insisted that the MOU with the Chinese Academy of Sciences will largely focus on coral restoration. The work will be carried out under direct supervision and at areas designated by the EPA. The first part of the initiative will be carried out on the Rasfari Reef, which was damaged by a shipwreck years ago. The ministry further said the EPA has staff with the technical expertise to carry out coral restoration work, but lacks the required technical equipment. According to the ministry, the Chinese Academy of Sciences will provide a portable weather station and a temperature log under the MOU. The ministry said work will be carried out in protected areas after the necessary permits are obtained. The ministry added that the installation, use and all related work of the equipment provided by Chinese Academy will be done by EPA staff. Ministry of Finance and Planning figures shows that the state expenditure so far this year has reached $246.4 million. According to the latest weekly fiscal report released by the ministry, the state expenditure as on 13th February was 21% lower than the $317.8 million spent in the same period last year. As the government has significantly cut down on spending, total state expenditure during this period includes $181.1 million on recurrent expenditure and $11 million on capital expenses. Recurrent expenditure included $71.3 million for salaries and allowances and $110.2 million for administrative expenses. Capital spending primarily includes expenditure on infrastructure development projects. The figures also showed that the state had generated $285.3 million so far this year, which includes $246.4 million in tax, $35.1 million in non-tax revenue, and $1.8 million in grant aid. Tax revenue mainly consists of revenue from import duty, business and property tax, BPT, and goods and services tax, GST. As of 13th February, state revenue has exceeded government spending by $84,300 according to the figures. The Ministry of Finance and Planning reveals that the Green Fund accumulated $103.63 million by the end of 2024. The details were revealed in the December 2024 Green Fund report. The report reveals that $71.34 million was deposited into the Green Fund throughout the year. Notably, $41.84 million was disbursed for various environmental projects, underscoring the fund's active role in sustainability efforts. Implemented to finance environmental protection and sustainability initiatives in the Maldives, the green tax is imposed on tourists staying at resorts, hotels, guest houses and vessels. Tourists at resorts and safari vessels are charged $6 per day, contributing to the fund. Guests at hotels and guest houses on inhabited islands with more than 50 rooms also contribute $6 per day. In hotels and guest houses with fewer than 50 rooms, the tax is set at $3 per day, ensuring that all visitors play a part in supporting environmental initiatives. Starting 1st January 2025, the government has announced an increase in the tax rate. Tourists at resorts, safari vessels, and hotels or guest houses with more than 50 rooms will now pay $12 per day, doubling the previous rate. Those staying at hotels and guest houses with fewer than 50 rooms will see their rate rise to $6 per day. Additionally, the exemption of children under 2 from the green tax will take effect next year. Funds collected through the green tax are earmarked for critical environmental protection and related projects, including water supply and sewerage development, coastal protection, and clean environment initiatives. Statistics from the Finance Ministry indicate that the highest green tax collection in 2024 occurred in March, totaling $7.33 million. This was followed by December, which saw collections amounting to $123,218, highlighting the steady stream of contributions to the fund. A high-level Japanese group, which includes a former prime minister, draws up plans for Elon Musk's Tesla to invest in Nissan following the collapse of its merger talks with Honda Motor. The report said the proposal, led by former Tesla board member Hiro Mizuno, is being supported by ex-premier Yoshihide Suga and his former aide Hiroti Izumi, citing unnamed sources. The group is hopeful that Tesla will become a strategic investor since they believe it is keen to acquire Nissan's plants in the United States, according to the report. Nissan shares closed 9.6% higher after the report. The automaker and Honda ended talks to forge a $60 billion car company last week. Nissan declined to comment on the report, while Tesla, Apple, and Suga's office did not directly respond to requests for comment. Reuters was not immediately able to contact Izumi. US stocks sold off on February 20th as ongoing tariff jitters and a downbeat forecast from Walmart dampened investor risk appetite. A broad sell-off pulled all 3 major US stock indexes into negative territory, with the blue-chip Dow suffering the steepest loss. The S&P 500 snapped its 2-day string of all-time closing highs. Gold prices surged to a record high, suggesting a flight to safety amid mounting uncertainties.
What we're looking at today is many of the high momentum, some of the leading stocks in the market that have been outperforming for weeks, if not months, are starting to pull back. They are overbought technically.
Walmart, the world's largest retailer, provided current fiscal year sales and profit forecasts that fell shy of analysts' expectations, which suggested dampening consumer demand.
When I think about sector performance, we look at what's happened to some of the more defensive areas in the market, utilities, staples, healthcare, REITs. They sold off fairly dramatically moving through the third and into the fourth quarter as interest rates move higher. We think that interest rates are starting to stall below that 4.75% band, and we think a lot of those sectors that have been underperforming are beginning to stabilize now.
Walmart's shares ended sharply lower. The S&P 500 lost 26.63 points, or 0.43%, to end at 6,117.52 points, while the Nasdaq Composite lost 93.89 points, or 0.47%, to 19,962.36. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 450.94 points, or 1.01%, to 44,176.65. Costa Rica's government receives its first group of mostly Asian migrants deported from the United States on February 20th. part of a deal with Washington to temporarily house up to 200 deportees from other nations. The deportations are part of US President Donald Trump's crackdown on unlawful migration that includes a growing number of flights to nations cooperating with him on the multinational repatriations. The latest group of expelled migrants were flown from the city of San Diego to Costa Rican capital San Jose, from where they were sent by bus to a migrant shelter near the border with Panama. Deputy Security Minister Omar Badia told reporters that migrants will be allowed to stay in Costa Rica for 1 month, during which time officials will coordinate their voluntary return to their home countries. The group, all part of family units, were from Uzbekistan, China, Armenia, Turkey, Afghanistan, Russia, Georgia, Vietnam, Azerbaijan, Iran, Jordan, Kazakhstan and Ghana. Up to 200 migrants from other nations deported by the US are expected to be sent to Costa Rica as part of the most recent deal, President Rodrigo Chavez announced this week, citing the threat of US tariffs on Costa Rican goods. Indian Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar meets his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on the sidelines of the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Johannesburg. Jaishankar, during the bilateral meeting, highlighted the importance of cooperation between the two countries in preserving and protecting a multilateral body like the G20. Foreign ministers from the G20 top economies were to meet in South Africa on Thursday and Friday amid tensions between members over the Ukraine war, trade disputes, and with the top US diplomat staying away owing to feuds with the hosts. The G20 countries, which represent some 85% of global GDP and 3/4 of trade, often struggle to see eye to eye, but geopolitical rifts since Russia's 2022 Ukraine invasion have rendered it more fractious than ever. The Peruvian government declares that 157 districts in the country would be placed under emergency for 60 days after intense rains caused floods and collapsed houses nationwide. Among the regions under emergency, which took effect on Thursday, are the capital Lima and the southern region of Ica. Rains have caused devastation in different parts of the country. In Ica, police agents rescued a woman who had gotten trapped in a swollen river. Another river overflowed in the southern city of Nazca, leaving serious damage to the nearby houses and crops and blocking roads. Ireland coach Simon Easterby says reports linking him with the vacant Wales job were only speculation but did not rule out the possibility of taking on the role in the future. Easterby's strong links with the Principality have led to suggestions he is in line to take over from Warren Gatland, who resigned earlier this month as Wales' record-losing run was extended to 14 straight defeats, with 22-15 defeat by Italy.
I didn't really know that had been linked, but no. Of course, there's been speculation, and that's all it is. It's speculation. I'm not in control of that. You know, I love what I do here. You know, I've been in this position with the team for a long time. I'm very fortunate with the people I get to work with, both management and players, and for me, that's you know, it's a dream job. So you know, speculation is exactly that. It's speculation, and not something that I can control.
Wales have since appointed Cardiff coach Matt Sharrett to take interim charge of their remaining 3 games in this year's Six Nations, but want to have a new coach in place when they tour Japan in mid-year.
Probably just feel like he's in a really good place himself, coming back from injury, and he kind of the way he influenced the game in the first couple of rounds, coming off the bench. Obviously, with Caelan not available this weekend, we just felt it was a good time for Dan to grow that leadership within the group, to grow another player, to experience something a little bit different around the week and how he handles that. And he's captain Leinster at various times as well, so it's not something he hasn't done before.
The Ireland interim head coach lives in Wales and spent most of his career there, notably as a player and coach with Scarlets. The 49-year-old has been an assistant with Ireland since 2014 and is in temporary charge of the team with Andy Farrell, preparing to take the British and Irish Lions on tour to Australia from June to August. Neymar's coach at Santos says the club is taking great care with the forward since his return to his boyhood club at the end of last month. Santos head coach Pedro Caixinha told a press conference that Neymar is the club's cause, adding that the 33-year-old feels happy and is lively and always wanting to get on the pitch. The Brazilian's condition has been a source of concern after a serious knee injury limited him to just 7 games after signing for the Saudi side Al Hilal in 2023. Neymar began his career aged 17 with Santos in 2009, racking up 136 goals and 64 assists in 225 matches to help the club secure their first Copa Libertadores title in nearly 50 years in 2011. He joined Barcelona in 2013, moved to Paris Saint-Germain for a world record fee of €222 million in August 2017 before joining Al Hilal for a reported fee of around €90 million. Brazilian media has reported that Neymar's deal with Santos runs until the end of June. A record number of over 700,000 olive ridley turtles arrive at Rushikuya Beach in India's eastern Odisha for their annual mass testing known as Aribada, providing a picturesque sight for the wildlife photographers and tourists. The authorities fenced the boundary of the area in which the endangered species is nesting. Females dig a pit on the beach and lay more than 100 eggs, which hatch together at night around 50 days later. Just 1 in 1,000 of the hatchlings reach adulthood. The baby turtles drift for hundreds of kilometers on ocean currents before the females make it back to the beaches where they were born to nest.
In the world, there are very few places where this, this kind of nesting with this kind of magnitude, the numbers of olive ridleys come here every year. That is amazing. I mean, we feel like lucky that it is happening in India. So this is not only the biggest nesting colony of India, one of the biggest in the world.
Named for its olive green carapace or shell, the olive ridley sea turtle has been listed as endangered by the World Conservation Union since 1986 because of decline in numbers. And that's all we have for you right now. Thank you for tuning in to PSM News. Goodbye.
एकटू कुरा हिव्वेत एकटू कुरमु गेम कुळे हिव्वेत हिव्वेचे एकटू कुरा हिवा फरेत का वरंग हास गेम शो ठीक है तेरे एकटू कुरानी का अंडनी इंगे
ಕೊಮ್ಮೆ ಹರಕು ಅಮ್ಮಿಲಿಯನ್ ಟಣುಗೆ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ದುನಿಯೆಗೆ ಕಂಡುತಕನ್ನಿಳ್ಳೆ ಮೂದಂ ಉಕಾಲೆವೆ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಗೆ ತೆರೆನ್ ಗಿನ ಅದತಿಗೆ ಕುಣಿ ಒಯಗಂಡುಗ ಜೆಹಿ ಕಣುಗೆ ಏಕೆ ಹಿಸಾಬ್ತಕ ಜಮಾವೆ ಮಿಗೊತ ಕುಣಿ ಜಮಾವ ಮ್ಯಾಗಂಡು ಫಸ್ ಸರಹದ್ದೆ ಕಂಡುತಹುಗಾವೆ ಮೀಗೆ ತೆರೆನ್ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಕುಣಿ ಗಿನಂ ಎವ್ವೆಫಾ ಹುರಿ ಎಸ್ ಸರಹದ್ದು ಕಮುಗಾವ ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಗಯಾ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಕಂಡುಗೆ ಸರಹದ್ದವುರೆ ಅಗ್ಗುಣ ಬೊಡು ಮೂದಶ ಕಂಡ ಕುಣಿಯಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಾರಮ